Hello, my name is Kelly Fossey, and welcome to ECD 101. Tonight we have two special guests who have influenced the way education is today. First, let me introduce you to one of the greatest philosophers in Europe at the end of the 17th century. John Locke was born in 1632 and died in 1704. He wrote 4 books called An Essay Concerning Human Understanding. Welcome, Mr. Locke.
Thank you, Miss Fossey.
I'd like to ask you about an essay concerning human understanding. I understand there were 4 books. Could you tell our viewers what each book was about?
Of course. Book 1 argues that we have no innate knowledge. So at birth, the human mind is a sort of blank slate. Book 2 claims that ideas are the materials of knowledge, and all ideas come from experience.
I see. Could you explain both of those terms, please?
By all means, sensation tells us about things and processes of the external world, meaning the environment. Reflection tells us about the operations in our minds, in other words, our own experiences.
Thank you. Please continue telling us about the 4 books.
Yes. Book 3 deals with the nature of language, its connections with ideas, and its role in knowledge. Book 4 explains the nature and limits of knowledge, probability, and relation of reason and faith.
It is also said that you developed the theory of and laid the foundation for environmentalism.
Yes. Environmentalism is the belief that the environment, rather than genetics, influences the intellectual growth and cultural development.
So what you are saying then is the environment determines what children will become.
Indeed. The environment and experiences literally form the young mind.
I'd like to say that society has evolved greatly. Could you explain to us how your society viewed children?
In the Middle Ages, the child was regarded as a plaything, or a miniature adult who dressed, played, and was supposed to act like their elders. Their age was unimportant and rarely known. I treated children as human beings and strongly urged their parents to spend more time with them.
And why do you urge them?
Children learn their greatest information from their parents. They begin to understand language from being spoken to. Without any attention, those children would go unnoticed.
I see. Now I noticed you never had any children. If you had, would you have treated them the way you wanted others to treat their own?
Absolutely! Like I said before, children need their nurture rather than the nature. Parents are a prime ingredient in a child's education.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Locke. Right after this short question break, we will be joined with a marvelous woman who broke traditions between a male and a female. This woman became the first female doctor in Italy and directed daycares in the worst neighborhoods in Rome. Maria Montessori will be with us in just a few minutes. Welcome back to ECD 101. Joining us is the well-known Maria Montessori. Maria was asked to represent Italy in a Women's International Congress in Berlin immediately after she graduated from med school. Welcome, Miss Montessori.
Thank you, Kelly.
In 1900, you directed the first daycare in a bad neighborhood in Rome. Can you tell us your reasoning for this?
I believed that you should teach a child how before asking them to complete a task.
I read about your famous nose-blowing lesson. Could you enlighten our listeners tonight?
Thinking back on that day makes me smile. I decided to give the children a slightly humorous lesson on how to blow their noses. After I had shown them different ways to use a handkerchief, I ended by indicating how it could be done as discreetly as possible. I took out my handkerchief in such a way that they could hardly see it, and I blew my nose as softly as I could. The children watched me, but failed to laugh. I wondered why, but I had hardly finished my demonstration when they broke out into applause that resembled a long repressed ovation in a theater. When I was leaving the school, the children began to shout, thank you for the lesson."
You seem to have been a wonderful educator. Now, what made you teach the children how to blow their noses politely?
As a teacher, I noticed the parents were constantly reprimanding their children on their runny noses. I also recognized that they didn't show them how to do it themselves. Once the children knew, they began to blow their noses with ease. It was a success.
How did the adults describe children back when you were alive?
Adults thought that children shouldn't be seen or heard. They didn't think that children should be able to go to school. I thought that we shouldn't deny the children the right to learn, because that is typical of how schools are run.
Do you feel that environment and experiences can affect the learning of a child?
Environment is very important. It might be more important than learning itself. I always had a peaceful and orderly room. I was also the first educator to have child-sized tables and chairs. I don't know if their experiences are significant, however. I believe that a child's ability to absorb knowledge is the way their minds are formed.
I see. Why do you say they absorb knowledge?
I had children younger than 3 and 4 years old learning how to read and write. It didn't stop there either. They would begin to talk about zoology and mathematics.
That's pretty impressive, Miss Montessori. Did you have any children?
I did. I had one son. During my times, a woman was supposed to be married to have a child. I wasn't. Mario Montessori was given to a wet nurse and then went to a boarding school. Although I was upset, it motivated me to begin my daycare center.
Well, there you have it. John Locke and Maria Montessori impacted the way education is today. I hope you enjoyed our show tonight. Thank you for watching ECD 101. I'm Kelly Fossey, and have a great night.